Have you paid attention to the news lately? I really hope you have, because in the last 3 days, the Supreme Court has ruled on 3 very important topics that may or may not affect you, but either way, it's important to know what's going on in our nation. Number 1, there will be no student loan forgiveness plan.
Hello guys, and welcome back to my channel. So guys, I'm sure most of you have heard about the affirmative actions coming to an end, guys, but what you haven't heard is the take on this on different types of races, guys. In my previous video, I covered the Asian people reacting to this news, but right now in this video, I'm gonna be talking about the Hispanics, the Latinos, in short, the South Americans, indigenous. What's their take on this news? So guys, let's just watch some videos and we shall talk from there.
I know for the very many millions of people, including myself, that we're waiting for that. That's a strike. But you know what? Como dicen, echale ganas, nothing else to do. However, if you are a teacher, I can tell you that there is a teacher loan forgiveness plan. Also, there is a PSLF program, public service loan program, that can help you, whether it be with $5,000 up to $17,500, or to help you clear all of your student loan debt. I would definitely Google that and look into it. Number 2, the Supreme Court has also ruled that affirmative action is no longer going to be applicable. Now, what is it and how does it affect you? Affirmative action, in simple terms, would be like the increase in workplace or educational opportunities for people that are disadvantaged, whether it be a group or because of via discrimination. Now, whether that's important to you or not, whether you believe in that or not, I'm not here to discuss that. I'm just giving you some facts. And finally, number 3, in Colorado, the Supreme Court upheld, I believe it was an evangelical web designer who did not want to provide her or his website abilities to marriages, same-sex couple marriages. So basically, they didn't want to serve the LGBTQ community. That's a huge blow for the LGBTQ community, because basically they're going and saying if a business does not want to represent you, help you, offer their services to you, they don't have to. Well, that's against the federal law, I thought, but here we are. So first, LGBTQ, what's next? Black people? Brown people?
I hope that Harvard, as soon as it can ramp up undergraduate recruitment of underrepresented minorities. So I think that specifically to me looks like going out to communities in New Mexico who are indigenous, recruiting students of all nationalities and all backgrounds to come. And I think that it is definitely going to be a lot tougher now that there's no national institutional support like affirmative action. Specifically, it is all about leveling the playing field. It is about specifically highlighting that affirmative action provided access to students from all communities to apply. I think that, I see so much solidarity with other organizers from so many communities, and we always talk about how affirmative action uplifts our communities and encourages our communities to dream about attending these colleges. And now I think that obviously it's going to be a much tougher time.
So I just got home from an event, and I've been sort of like gathering my thoughts and wrapping my head around the end of affirmative action and the impact that's going to have communities of color. But of course, I'm a Latina, so I'm just really concerned about what that's going to mean to us. The fact is, and we already know this, but the data clearly shows that those states that ban affirmative action, Latinos are like at the very bottom when it comes to access to education. And specifically California, we actually banned affirmative action in 1996. Schools like Berkeley, UCLA, when affirmative action was banned in California, they saw big drops in diversity for Blacks and Hispanics. And Latinos are majority in California, right? There's some of the cities that are majority Latino, yet the representation or college acceptance rate is really low, and that affects so much, right? Because access to education is access to a brighter future. And I really can't understand people that want to get rid of affirmative action, that is trying to somehow elevate those who don't have equal access. Because the data doesn't lie, right? Unless you think that somehow Latinos and Blacks are inferior and we're less capable, but we're not. We're just as capable as everybody else. We just want equality. We just want the same access, the same opportunities as everybody else. And I want to end this video hopeful because we have the power to change things. But right now, I think the best way to end this video is with this cartoon of Lalo Alcaraz that totally express how many of us are feeling today. Let's not give up.
Okay, guys, so what these guys in the videos that I've played are trying to say is that the underrepresented minorities like Black people and Hispanic students won't have the same benefits like they did a year ago, guys. So maybe this means that we will see a larger percentage of white and Asian students. So, guys, to be honest, like I think schools should still factor in diversity when they take applicants. Like, please let me know what you think on that. Like, really, I don't see a lot of schools changing their methods, like for real. So not to say that they're using affirmative actions directly, but I mean, they still need to keep racial quotas. Yeah, guys, I don't see this changing anything too soon. Let me know your take on that. But anyway, we shall have to wait and see. So let's continue watching other videos, guys.
So when we literally talked about a couple months ago, the whole ruling that happened in Florida and how bad that's going to affect us, minorities, I said minorities, I meant African-American and Hispanics. You know, a lot of my African-American friends are like, well, you know, you guys should have backed this up a long time ago, but it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, you're brown, a lighter shade of brown and beyond. That's it. Today's court ruling on affirmative action, wow, devastating, devastating. There is like no way in hell I would have been able to go to the universities that I went to without the affirmative action rule. In fact, what that basically means is a lot of these universities are about to get very, very, very blanquito, if you know what I mean. Okay? This helped diversity in the university. Now, we're not going to see that much now. We're about to see a whole change in the way demographics and things have. People that needed that chance to go into a Harvard, a Yale, a Dartmouth, a Columbia, Cornell. Wow, let's see what happens now if you're a minority.
Okay, so yesterday we saw that the Supreme Court struck down affirmative action across the U.S. The whole point was that it was completely unconstitutional to accept students into colleges based on race, not on merits. And yet asshole Democrats claim that striking down affirmative action was racist. Correction, having affirmative action in colleges is racist. See, to get into a big-time university like Harvard, you have to have good merits, such as having good grades. But instead, it was all about skin color. And yet Joe Biden completely disagrees with the Supreme Court's decision. Now remember, Joe Biden is a master racist, and he's a master of Jim Crow laws. And we should all know that Biden's past as a senator, that he at one time said that he didn't want his kids in an integrated racial jungle. He didn't want his kids being in an interracial jungle of public schools that were integrated. And yet he had the gall to say that the Supreme Court was not normal. You know what's not normal? We don't have a normal president. Why? Because 6 of the justices were conservative? And then you had Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson saying that this country is colorblind and is still racist. Well, let's not forget how she got on the bench on the first place. And let's not forget, this is the same woman that couldn't define her own gender and said that having sex offenders on the registry was unconstitutional, which is stupid, and she's wrong, of course. The only one that saw that affirmative action was wrong and saw through Justice Brown's bullshit was Clarence Thomas. He exactly knew that affirmative action in universities was wrong. And now you've got Harvard University looking for loopholes and see if they can try to go around the Supreme Court's decision. Yeah, good luck with that. And then you got asshole Al Sharpton saying that this decision was a stab in the back. Really? He hasn't done anything for the black community, so he's stabbed his own community in the back. And today we got more decisions coming from the Supreme Court. And you know what I'm waiting for? The student loan forgiveness case. That one I want to see.
So today, SCOTUS struck down affirmative action. And as a Native American woman in this country today, let me explain to you why this is a horrible and cruel ruling. So affirmative action is what colleges use when they use race in admissions to help have a more diverse student campus group, to allow more people access to college. And the reason why it was struck down by SCOTUS is because they said that the colleges failed to provide measurable objectives to justify the use of race. And that just gets me so angry, because it's like, for me, if I was talking to SCOTUS, it's like, okay, so how am I supposed to measurably explain that when the government took my grandparents forcibly to Indian schools and cut their hair and caused them trauma and tried to erase every piece of their identity, how that affects me to this day, emotionally, physically, mentally? Like, how am I supposed to objectively measure that? But, okay. And how am I supposed to objectively measure the fact that living on the reservation, where there is still no access to water, no electricity, no, remnants of the outside world, and how that affected me as a college applicant? How am I supposed to explain that living on the reservation caused my father to go into a deep depression and become an alcoholic, and then end up passing away when I was a junior in high school? How am I supposed to measurably explain that my mom was stolen by white Christian missionary people, and that was allowed by the government at that time, and how she was taken away from her family, and how that affects me culturally to this day, and how that affects me emotionally, and how that affected my schooling? How am I supposed to explain that decades of living on the reservation, having no generational wealth being built up? When I was a freshman in high school, our trailer burned down and there was no resources for us. There was no one to come and save my family. That whole year I was homeless. And then when my family did decide to leave and I came to Colorado, and I had this huge culture shock. Oh, but I'm still supposed to get good grades, right? Like, I'm still supposed to be straight A student so I can get into college, which I wasn't. And I'm a mechanical engineer now, and my grades were crap in high school. Let me tell you that, because of the things that I had to go through, and the things mentally that I was struggling with, and all of those things that I had to endure year after year, because I'm Native American, because that is my lineage. And for SCOTUS to tell me, oh, that is unconstitutional that we take into account your race, and now when you go to college, you got to line up with all of these different people, and it will be equal. Well, to be equal, you have to start off from the same starting point. And students do not all start at the same starting point. And the old SCOTUS, who ruled in favor of affirmative action, understood this. They understood that being able to check that box, I didn't have to explain all of these different things that I lived through. It was them understanding and saying, here, I hear you. I hear your voice. I've seen your struggles. I understand all the things that the American government has put you and your lineage through. And I'm going to take that into account with your college admissions, because darn straight, I didn't have good grades. I didn't have private tutors. I didn't have extracurricular activities. I didn't have anything. You can't have those things when you are literally just struggling. Even when I studied for the ACT, I was doing it at McDonald's on the weekends, on the times that my mom actually had off so she could watch my little brothers, while I went and did that. And the issue now is with the new SCOTUS, is when you take away that box, you're taking away more than just, I'm a Native American woman and I'm brown. When you take away that box, you're taking away that thread that goes back through decades and decades of time, through history, through everything that I have lived through. You're wiping it away and saying that it's making the playing field more fair, when in fact it is not. It's making it harder for people like me to go to college. It is, and then on top of that, they're saying, but you can write about it in your essays. And now, and then colleges wonder why they call it trauma essays, because people like me who have they don't have a bajillion extracurricular activities, they don't have straight A's, they don't have any of that. We have to trauma dump our stories just to get the admissions people to understand that, hey, I didn't have these opportunities, but I overcame them and I want to go to college. And it's causing us to relive those traumas when we apply to college now, since affirmative action is no longer there. And as a Native American woman, I am very saddened by this decision. I think it will affect many, many students. I understand how some people could be all for it, because again, if you haven't lived through it and you don't know people who lived through it, like lives like mine, they would have no idea, no concept of what people are living through. And you can see that with SCOTUS, with the voting percentage. Like, they're up in their little ice castle away from the real world and saying that these things are fair when they're not. And I just have hope that in the future, just like this last ruling was overturned, that it will be overturned again.
Affirmative action is dead. The Supreme Court killed affirmative action. These are likely headlines that you've seen today regarding the affirmative action cases at Harvard and UNC, but they're not entirely true. The Supreme Court did not kill affirmative action. The Supreme Court has struck down race-conscious admissions. Affirmative action allows colleges and universities to attempt to diversify their student body in a variety of ways, not limited to race. It has helped increase representation for women, students of color, poor students, students from geographically marginalized areas like Appalachia, students with disabilities, students who don't speak English as a first language, and a variety of other groups. What the Supreme Court has voted to strike down is race-conscious admissions, meaning that this decision would lead to universities not being able to include race as a contributing factor to college application decisions. The Supreme Court has released a 237-page opinion about their decision. And I'm gonna read it so you don't have to, but you should read it if you want. And then I'll come back here and I'll tell you the highlights. My name's Victoria. I'm a doctoral candidate studying race and racism in higher education. If you'd like to read along with me as I comb through the Supreme Court decision, I'm going to be reading aloud on TikTok Live today, June 29th at 1 p.m. Eastern.
This is so devastating, and of course it's going to impact Black and brown students the most. I am so sorry for what higher education is about to become. If you go to a predominantly white institution, well, get ready for them to get even whiter. And if you don't, well, I'm sorry, they're about to become predominantly white. Affirmative action forced these institutions to give marginalized folks access and opportunity, because without it, they simply did not care that they had no BIPOC students. Affirmative action was a way to slightly level a very uneven playing field. It forced these institutions to look at individuals' circumstances. And this decision just said, you don't have to do that. So now we're about to revert to only the privileged and wealthy being able to have access. This is an incredibly sad, devastating day for education, diversity, and inclusion. And I'm so sorry. Please take care of yourselves and take time to grieve and process this, because this is devastating.
This is some insanity. Not only did the Supreme Court strike down affirmative action in higher education, but to add insult to injury, they excluded military schools because, and I quote, they have potentially distinct interests. Yes, conservatives in the court won't level the playing field so the Black and brown students can get an education, but they will send them to war.
So those are the videos, guys. But in conclusion, guys, let me just read for you what Michelle Obama left on her post. And it reads, guys, so often we accept that money, power, and privilege are perfectly justifiable forms of affirmative action. While other kids growing up like I did are expected to compete when the ground is anything but level, guys. Guys, please let me know what you think about this entire situation in the comment section below, and I will definitely see you in my next video.